Brothers, what's good? How's everyone doing?
What it do?
Living right, living right.
Hey, keeping it right, keeping it tight, man. Well, as always, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in with us today here on Perspective. You can like us and follow us on Instagram and Facebook and on YouTube. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of our manhood, our masculinity, and how that portrays and how we see that showing up in our community. And I think that was an important topic for us to discuss, so we can, as men, be able to better educate ourselves and educate other men as well as our children and things of that nature. But how's everybody been?
I'll go first. I've been good. I'll go first. I've been good. Able to get back to a little bit of normalcy. Stores is a couple stores open. Can walk around a little bit more. So things have been doing all right over here.
Man, things going good, man. I'm vaccinated, man, so I'm happy about that. I got mine. So
You got your vaccination?
I got my vaccination, man. So I got both doses, so I'm good to go. All is well, man. Just steady striving.
Oh,
Tab, something wrong with your connection, bro.
Your volume got to go up.
Yo, we got to get your value taken care of. But that's a good question. I mean, it's 4 of us on here. How many of us is vaccinated?
Just me.
One.
So just me and you? No, I'm vaccinated too.
Yeah. You vaccinated too? Yeah, I'm not vaccinated.
So you Cali boys is avoiding vaccination, I see.
No. To be honest, I took my son to get his vaccination shots. I just ain't did it myself.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
well,
Jaden
you gonna get it?
Huh?
You gonna get it?
I'm still debating. I may get it. I'm gonna wait a little bit and see what happens with everything, and then I may circle around and get it. But I'm not immediately rushing to it just yet.
That's understandable. I mean, I think everybody obviously are taking their time to gather the information that they need in order to make that decision.
Yep.
But that's what's up, man. At least 2 out of the 4 perspectives is brothers is vaccinated. But man, I wanted for us to talk today about something that's important. I know we was having a lot of these conversations. A lot of people always ask me, when they watch the perspective, like, hey, what made you guys decide that you wanted to have the show, or call it perspective and things of that nature? And one of the things that I've kind of always tell them, and first of all, these are conversations that we have normally as brothers, as men. These are things that we talk about. We have a well-versed catalog of topics that we discuss on our Marco Polo or on our text message chats and things of that nature, or as well as when we're in person. So I've always felt like some of these conversations that we have, I think, they kind of always deserve the audience, in the sense of these are things that men talk about that people don't know men talk about. And sometimes these are things that men think about, but they're not willing to say out loud. And I think that's why we call it Braspective, because it's the brother's perspective. And some people could take that as man, some people could take that as black man, but it's the perspective. And I think that was important for us to make sure we can have whatever type of conversations we have unfiltered, say what we want to say, and go from there. So these aren't topics that we're just making up. These are things that we're actually talking about normally. So with that being said, why do we run from anything that looks sensitive in our community?
Because it's ingrained in us to be tough. I mean, that comes from like early childhood. When your mama said, I'm gonna give you a spanking if you don't stop crying. Well, you already spanked me. Of course I'm gonna cry. I gotta spank you. What else am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to respond if I just got a spanking? You know what I'm saying? So, or it's like, man up. I'm a boy, or he's a boy. He's 5 or 6 or 7, 8. He's a boy. He's not a man yet. So you can't tell him to man up or toughen up. Because what happens is crying or being your feelings are hurt, all that. That's a regular human emotion. It's not that we're like robots or something, or we just like we're clad iron. All those things are normal. So when we talk about sensitivity and all that, I mean it's just the culture, and I think that's what we call toxic masculinity sometimes, and we deal with that a lot in our community. So it's one of them things of that's a regular emotion. Of course, crying is a regular emotion. Of course, getting your feelings hurt. Of course, whatever it is that you're going through is a normal thing. So I think that's where it starts. It's kind of just one of the things we've been doing forever, and it just continues.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna take this a little bit to another level too. It's funny. It's that only certain people can stay away from being sensitive. That's funny.
Mhm.
Like if you really think about it, they're like, oh, if you're a minority, you can't be sensitive because if you be sensitive, people are gonna think you weak, and then they're gonna take advantage of. So that's another thing that I think is ingrained is like, oh, you can't be sensitive because once people see that, then you're broken. And we don't want to ever show that in society that something can get to me because once that happens I'm not a man or I'm not seen as a man anymore. So I think that's why sometimes we as men we run from or anything that looks kind of sensitive. We're like, no, that's not me, and then we want to buck up at people about it too. No, that's not me, I'm not a crier, or no, that's not me, I don't like to show my feelings. So it's something that, like Jeff said, is ingrained in us. It's something that we learn at a young age. I mean, even when you were playing sports and you start feeling like you about to cry or it doesn't go your way, oh, that kid's not as tough as everybody else.
Yeah.
What? I got hurt. What you mean I'm not as everybody else? Everybody else didn't almost fall and break their leg, but that's what we're taught. And then as you grow up, you're like, man, I got to keep that mentality. I can't let people see that something's getting to me. So shoot, that's why when you're young, you play the Dirty Dozens to see who can really handle it, right? And then
Right.
you go in harder on that person that couldn't handle it.
Right. Unfortunately we live in a culture that, when they smell blood in the water, they attack, right? We like sharks, you know what I'm saying? And so I think for a lot of men growing up, they've done anything that they could to not be sensitive, to not look sensitive. I don't know the name of the song. I have to look it up, but even J. Cole got a new song on his album where he talked about how to he's raising his son and how he's trying to raise his son to make sure that he don't look weak, because J. Cole basically was saying he spent a lot of his time growing up trying to portray himself to be somebody that he wasn't, simply because he didn't want to be picked on. And I think to a certain degree that's kind of what we are. And I think it's all regards, I think that, as Black men, we struggle too sometimes with that in homophobia, right? Where, we can be extremely homophobic, man, because in our minds, oh, well, I don't want to be associated with anyone who is in a gay relationship because I don't want anybody to think that I'm gay, because if they think I'm gay, they're going to think I'm weak, or they're going to think I'm a punk, or they're going to think these things. And it's not just in homophobic relationships, because you see that with dudes who, look, me and Pete, we wear glasses, right? Right. Now, when we were younger, if we wore glasses and maybe we dress a little more proper, maybe if we talked a little proper, we would have been picked on because people would have felt like we were weak, and we'd been like, nah, that cat can't kick it with us because he a little different. So I think sometimes that aversion to things that are different, that are unknown, it causes us to feel like we need to be this macho man. And all we're doing in the long run, that is hurting ourselves, because we're not allowing ourselves to be ourselves. We're trying to live up to people's expectations and their standards, and those things constantly change.
But but another caveat to that is, though, and this is as you get older, and we talked about avoiding being sensitive or any of that. Being vulnerable is a hard thing for a lot of people to do, and it's hard, like, especially if somebody's been hurt or whatever. It's hard for people to open up after being scarred or whatever it is. So whenever it's a time you like, what I'm saying, I can't cry in front of her, or I can't do that because the last time I did that, she was like, "Oh, you a punk," you know what I'm saying? So stuff like that you run from, so we run from it because it, like I said, that's as we get older, not young men, but as we go into manhood, and you start to see, like, sometimes I can't let my guard down with everybody because everybody ain't gonna view me as I'm still macho or I'm still a man, because, like we talked about, that's what society says. But in actuality, man, it's a part of being a human. It's having emotions. Nobody's walking around here, man, with the same straight line, baseline functionality at all.
And if they are, they're not living, right? If you are removing your sense of your ability to naturally express natural emotions such as hurt, rejection, things of that nature, then you're removing your ability to connect with yourself, right? So you don't have the ability to connect with yourself because you're trying to protect yourself from looking a certain way, man. And that's always important, man. I think, again, some of the stuff we grow up are maybe our fears, and not even as, like, sometimes it's not even people tell us these things. It's just we look around and we pick up on things in our environment and we say this is not necessarily conducive for us to be surviving in this environment, and as a result, we then adapt different behaviors that typically don't work for us.
Right. And I think, and I think this all happens in stages, because as you grow up, your mindset changes. So when you're younger, that sensitivity, that image of I got to be seen a certain way, that's what you push for when you're like between 14, 15 into your mid 20s. You're like, nah, this is how I want people to perceive me. So I got to portray that image. And then as we get older, that's when it starts to change. Maybe because you got things to lose, or maybe you're looking at the bigger picture and you're like, you know what, I'm not going to put time into these things that don't even affect me in the long run. Like you start to really weigh out, like, you know what, I don't even know why I give that energy. And then that's when that, depending from your sensitive feelings or being able to be vulnerable and engage in those conversations, starts to change. I mean, and this goes in so many ways. It goes with how you deal with your family, especially how you deal with your significant others. Like this kind of topic goes in so many ways as you do get older and start to realize the bigger picture.
No, I caught the back end of that, so I'm a defer. I didn't catch it.
No, it's an easy one. It's an easy one, Tab. Why do men run away from being sensitive?
Oh, I mean, well, yeah, I caught the beginning of what you said. It really comes down to like kind of what you were saying, Jeff, is that we taught from day one to be resilient and tough. Like that's all that we know. You know what I'm saying? Like I just look at my household, my surroundings, everything. I've always been taught to be resilient. You don't really have time to check in with your emotions and things like that. You just don't. I don't. I mean, in the job that I work in, I don't have time to check in on my emotions. In my personal life, I mean, shit, just being husbands and fathers, just always everybody else's needs coming before yours. So how do you really even have the time to check in for your own emotional headspace and things like that, right? Like, and I mean, I even look at it for myself, being in the service of being police, and I talk about it all the time, and I don't get the thrills out of arresting people. I mean, that shit comes with the job, but I am here to help people with their problems, and that's my responsibility. So by the time I'm done with a 10 or 12-hour shift, I've heard people in their worst situations, and I've had to help them and go through that. And I mean, at the end of the day, dude, I'm vexed. I don't really have the energy and headspace to be checking in on myself. I'm just trying to survive in advance, and that just kind of comes with the territory along with regular life. So, I mean, it's a lot of reasons why, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, you know.
How much of that, guys, do you guys think about? Because one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this conversation is just in general, like particularly with Black men, and our views sometimes on homosexuality and things of that nature. Let's remove all the Bible and all that type of stuff, because what I always say is people use the Bible to support some of these beliefs that they have, but then the other end, when it comes to the Bible telling them something else, they don't use the Bible for that. You know what I'm saying? So I think sometimes people use the Bible to only support their the views that they want supported, and they don't use it for what its original content was: love all people and things of that nature. How do you think that our view sometimes on not wanting to be weak, not wanting to look sensitive, how do you think that affects our views on homosexuality and relationships and things of that nature?
So, well, with homosexuality, I'll split them up from homosexuality and relationships. So with the homosexuality, it's kind of the way that you're even taught about same sex is the negative connotation. That's gay. Like it just to start there. When we were young and people were like, that's gay, it was seen as that's so negative, or that's so much of a sensitive individual that's been ingrained in your head. So now you get older and you now are engaging or around somebody who is in a same-sex relationship. You start to be like, well, can I be cool with those people? Because am I taking on the stigmas that they have? And so now you're like, well, how much do I need to show that I'm macho and I'm not part of that group, but at the same time, I'm cool enough that I have friends that's associated with that group. So I think it's just the way that we've been ingrained and taught what homosexuality is the reason why people probably tend to think that it's being sensitive, or you're showing some kind of softness because you can relate or you can understand what those same-sex relationships have going on. The final thing I'll say about that too is sometimes it's that that unknown. I think a lot of people have adverse understanding of things or don't want to deal with it because they don't know and they don't get it. So that's another reason why you're like, oh, let me not associate with anybody that's, you know, gay or homosexual, because now people who don't understand, just people can be friends or whatever have you, can start going down that avenue. It's kind of like when people are saying, oh, I got black friends. It's like, just black friends, it doesn't mean you really understand what's going on. So that's how I look at it. And then in regards to relationships, that's something different. Like Taff was just saying, I got to be the man of my house. I got to be the man all the time. So if I start to show any kind of sensitive nature, you know, they're going to think that I'm not really running my household correctly. So I think that's just some stuff that we're taught. And again, until you get older and you're in the situation is when your mindset changes.
And let me scale back from it just a little bit. I don't feel like it has to be the traditional version of you the man, so you got to dominate your household. I just look at it more or less from my standpoint of like, by the time I'm done doing everything that I have to do in a day, I don't have the energy to have that vulnerability, to have that emotional space. I do think that, you know, a lot of households and relationships, and just for men, even my co-man, right, there has to be some level of support for that. Like you guys are counselors. All of us are in some way, in shape or form, helping people. At the end of the day, when you guys look at it even for yourself, how much energy do you have left to still be vulnerable and communicate that on a consistent basis? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I will say on a consistent weekly basis, I don't have the energy for that. And I think that it's a very complex situation to support men that have that responsibility. And I don't feel that people are always able to do that to their best ability, because it's a difficult job. I mean, shit, especially mine, but y'all's too. I mean, we all have some stories to show that our jobs can be very emotionally draining. Hell, just calling y'all. Sometimes y'all don't want to pick up the phone. Like, hell no. You want to talk on the phone? No. Text me. I'm not talking on the phone. So I know y'all be in the same space, but to my point, does anybody, y'all go through that on that weekly basis? I'm all right on the island with it.
No, I think that's something. I mean, you know, you guys know I talk to people about their problems for a living. So I've spent the whole day of work talking to people, you know, back to back to back. Sometimes, you know, that only time in my day where I'm not really interacting or engaged with anyone is that 30-minute car ride from my office to the house. And sometimes, you know, you got phone calls of people, you know, that call you, and I'm like, bruh, I know I need to call this person back, but this may be the only time why I can have some peace. Like I literally had some of my friends like telling me that I need to be a better friend, right? Because I was never answering the phone for people. You know what I'm saying? Like, like never answering appropriate. You know what I'm saying?
We
like
had to come down on him on Christmas.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't answer the phone, so people like, bro, we don't hear from you. Like, what you talking about? I talk to you all the time. They like text and chat don't always count, right? So I had to realize, okay, but then I had to explain to people, y'all got to think about it, man. I talk to people for a living every day. Sometimes I get home, then I got to get home. I got to talk to the wife, talk to the kid, you know, and I'm waiting for them to go to bed for me to finally be able to have a time where I can just do nothing and say nothing and just be quiet.
Facts.
You know, so my day started at 8. It's not until 9:30, 10 o'clock that now at PM where I can just really sit down and do nothing and not talk. So sometimes that vulnerability doesn't come as much as it needs to or as it should, just because I'm burnt out on energy. But I try to be more intentional in recognizing, okay, I gave my job all my energy. I got to make sure I got stuff for my wife and my son. I got to make sure I keep some for them as well. And then I'll get mine at the end of the day, because again, if I'm leading, I got to make sure that everybody else around me is taken care of first. We always talk about men being leaders. We got to make sure that the people that, you know, are following us to a certain degree are good before we can make sure we good.
But you just said it though. You had to wait to the end of the day to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we were saying the same. Like, man, I want to, you know, I got to do, and then it's like, but I do for me at the end. Like that says a lot within itself. So just having that mindset that you're sharing, it lets you know that you can't. Your guard's up for the most part in some manner until the end of the day. You're like, everybody's asleep. Nobody's looking for me right now. That says a lot to me. Go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, I'm saying it's a saying. I think it was Royce the 5'9", man. It's like a song. It's like, check on your strong friends, bro. Them was the people that's always checking on other people, or they overextending themselves, or they got compassion fatigue because of the work that they do. Like all of us in here. So it's always one of them things that like, are you good? And we always gonna say, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But you know, sometimes you gotta pull up on some people, or actually gotta call them and say, bro, what's going on? Where you been at? You know what I'm saying? So you gotta do some of that kind of stuff with people too. But I mean, I know we do it with each other, but a lot of people don't have those good close friends that actually pull up on you or call or whatever it is, fly to you and say, hey man, what you doing? What's going on? I ain't heard from you. I ain't seen you. I ain't, you know what I'm saying? So within this group and the others in our friend group, we try to do that. But sometimes we all get caught up in the day to day. But getting back to the one question real quick, I think when we talk about homophobia and all that kind of stuff, it's just it was taught that they're different. Like their anatomy, their brain, like something went wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? That was what we was taught to see. It's like it's something wrong with them. It's like no, it ain't nothing wrong with them. They just like what they like. They love what they love. And to be associated with that, and to be different when you're a young person or growing up, you're like, nah, I gotta fit in. I gotta be whatever you thought was cool. I gotta be in with that group. You know what I'm saying? So, or they was like, well, this person chose that. I'm like, I don't know. I think that might be genetic, or you know, it's one of them things like. His ashy elbow ain't gonna rub up on my ashy elbow. It's not that kind of, you know what I'm saying? It don't work like that. Yeah. So I think it's just we was misinformed, and I think that's kind of how it's been for a long time in regards to that culture. Is we just been misinformed about it for so long.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I mean, like it also comes down to just once you reach that self confidence, that self efficiency, you've hit your stride in your man life or in your man goals, where it's like. It doesn't matter who I associate with. I know who I am. And, you know, if this person brings value to my life or I bring value to their life, I don't care about those type of things. You know, I mean, yes, stereotypical. We had to break down a long line of stereotypes behind that. But I think once we all got confident in ourselves and who we are, where we are, and where we stand, it's like it doesn't matter what you are, gay, straight, trans, none of that really matters because at the end of the day, like I stand on what I stand on. Ain't nobody gonna judge me about it too hard. And I mean, yeah, I still got that macho man at the top of the title, like we got on the show. I'll beat your ass if you go too far with trying to play me out. So it's kind of like one of those things where I'm gonna stand for what I stand for and believe in what I believe in. And the people around me that want to do what they do, I'm gonna support it. Just like I stand on what I do and do my thing individually, to be my friend is to allow me to wild out sometimes. And to let me be in a lot of spaces that you just have to say that's just him. So why can't I allow that for somebody else in their life, right? Like it's a give and a take. So, I mean, I'm not a judge.
It's crazy because one of the things that we all talked about is that level of maturity, right? Because had you talked to us 20 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe we have a different conversation. We may say something different in regards to dealing with same-sex relationships and things of that nature. But then it's the hypocrisy, right? Of men, like, you know, we don't mind two women, right? We don't mind two women, you know, but then when it comes to two men, then we have an issue, man. And it's a maturity and a level of growing that had to happen. I think for me personally, you know, I had a family member who, you know, who came out and said he was gay. And that made me had to change my perspective. And this was in my early 20s, and I had to change my perspective on, well, I still love him the same. He ain't different. He hasn't changed. He's not a different person. And it just kind of made me have to mature. But I think, again, when you're a young man's mind, you're typically dealing with the teachings of the world. But when you get older, you start to go out and you get information for yourself, right? And so you're not dealing with what you were learned in your community. You're not dealing with what you learned in your circle. You're dealing with life in general and people. And you learn to get to a point where people love who they want to love. And like Tab said, that's genetically, it's still a man. You disrespect him, he'll do something to you, right? So at the end of the day, I always say, man, look, there's this thing in psychology we learn when we talk about like defense mechanisms, right? There's this defense mechanism called reaction formation. Reaction formation is when you try to take a complete opposite, or you try to deny this association with something. So you take a complete opposite approach, right? Meaning that, oh, if you're really gay, then you have to be homophobic to kind of make people believe that you're not gay, right? You're kind of trying to what's it, 42 fake people. You're trying to fake them out to make them believe that you're not something, because how could you ever be gay but you're out here protesting against gay rights and things of that nature? Well, you're simply doing that because you're trying to hide who you truly are. So when I think of somebody who is now homophobic, I look at it like, bro, why are you care so much about somebody else and their relationships and what's going on with them? Are you trying to then hide who you actually are? Because if you may have an adversive position to gay rights and things of that nature, but if you're to a point where you're homophobic, man, where you're out here gay bashing and you trying to harm people and you just talking, then now we're having a problem. Now the rights in itself, all right, we can argue whatever you want to argue on that. You know what I'm saying? But I still believe that people should have the right to be with whoever the hell they want to be with, and they should marry whoever the hell they want, as long as it's a person. We can't be having people marrying animals. I'm not for that.
I mean, no, Bubba, go ahead, Ted.
No, I was just thinking about what we're talking about, and I'm just thinking about it from a simple common denominator for myself. I'm a black police officer. I'm outnumbered in a building every day where it's my majority white. There's maybe a couple of us that are black. Even if we want to go with the whole umbrella of people of color, it's a very large big gap between the two of us, right? How much do I have to assimilate? And we just keeping it lit. How much do I have to assimilate every fucking day to walk into that building, right? How much of myself do I have to give up, mask or shield every day to assimilate to make the environment, which is the majority, comfortable, right? That shit is very, 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 very mentally draining and stressful, right? But it comes with the territory. Nobody can fix that. Nobody understands that. People try. Some people try their best. Some people don't. But that in itself is a mentally draining experience for me, right? Just assimilating to something that doesn't actually look like me, but I'm a part of, and I have to really play my part on my position sometimes, right? So I could just imagine what that's like for somebody in their personal life when it comes to like love, relationships, things of that nature. Like, I mean, that's got to be even more difficult, right? When you're away from your workplace, right? Walking around at your happy hours, the place where you're supposed to be able to let your hair down, you still have to cover up this thing because of what people might say or how they might react to that, right? Like, I got to do that shit 12 hours out of a day, and it fucked up a lot of stuff that I got to do outside of my personal job. So I can just imagine what that's like when somebody actually has to do that off the work hours, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we're straight men, but how hard is it out here just in general for black men in general? And then you add another layer onto it. And it's like, I can't imagine like this person have to hold this in till they fucking 30 years old or 25 or 40, or however long they've been holding this in for them to actually feel comfortable with themselves. How hard does that have to be? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, with all the stuff you got going on as a black man in this country, to add the layer of being gay or trans or whatever it is that they are, how hard is that, dude? Like, that got to be like excruciating to go through. You know what I'm saying? So,
but think about it, Jeff.
I can imagine.
So think about it though, because you brought a good point. Hold on, before you go, P.
Yeah.
We walk around feeling discriminated, feeling judged, feeling prejudged, and people don't even know us, right? As black people. So then, what are you doing to someone who is gay? Because you don't know them, you don't know their story, you don't know anything about them. You're simply judging them based on this title that they have, based on how they feel about being with someone who's of same sex. You're judging them based on who they choose to love. And some of these dudes and some of these women who have loved the people that they love, we probably need to be judging them based on who they with, instead of somebody simply judging someone simply because of, oh, you're this because you're a woman and you're married to a woman, or you're a man and you're married to a man. I think as black people, if anybody, should be understanding and be empathetic to the fact of how society sometimes are judging people and trying to put people in a box that they simply don't belong in.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of things that it comes with is there's something that's been well studied. It's called intersectionality, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the ability of individuals to have so many layers within themselves. Like, you're an African-American male father, single father or father, or you're an African-American female who has mixed gender within you. So you're black, white, and something else, and you're gay. So people approach you and not understanding that you are a complex individual. They only approach you with, oh, the stigma that I know about you, that's how I'm going to approach you, and that's what I'm going to stick with. And again, these are learned stigmas that sometimes the people who are judging puts out there. It's not like I'm approaching you saying, you know what, this is just how you should treat me. So Yeah, that intersectionality and understanding an individual, just how they present, is hard for a lot of people to do. Like, why is it that we do also question, like, oh, I got to know everything about you in order to engage with you? Why can't I just engage with the person that I meet? I don't understand that a lot too.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot in our society. And I think that just crosses the board on so many things.
Plus, this being macho man all the time, that don't work. So what you gonna do? You gonna go back to the caveman days? You just got you got your beard all stuffy, your legs got a fro on them, your underarms got froze coming out of them. I don't know if we was going that route or not, but you gotta sometimes indulge in your metrosexuality, bro. When that comes in. When I say that, I'm talking about manscaping, all of them things like that. Keeping a lot of hair on you is nasty. You could wash it all day. It doesn't take away things. To get rid of those things, you gotta shave it off. Shave it off. I'm just keeping it lit. You gotta shave it off. So don't be too macho man all the time. Because if you're wondering why you got older, it's because you got that hair on you since you've been in the 9th grade from when you were sneaking real bad that day at track practice and keep popping back up. Because you ain't shaved it off and let it go. Hair follicles are nasty. They're nasty. They can't be washed with it.
Hey,
Now you're dermatologist.
think about this, right? So much of what we do and how we move in society is really to please people that we don't know, that don't know us, right? We get more energy into pleasing people we don't know than to pleasing the people that's in our lives that have our back and in our circle, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy to me, right? We walk around, Jeff always talk about your representative, people walking around with these representatives. And what if your whole representative has to deny who you truly are? Like, think of the cognitive dissonance that exists between who you actually are and who you're portraying yourself to be. Like, when we wonder why people out here struggling, you know, suicidal rates are up, homicidal rates, people doing all these crazy shootings and all that type of stuff, people having mental health issues, drug addiction and all that, is because people live in a world where there is so much conflicting information about who they can be, who they are, who they should be, and all that, that you start to just feel like, look, it's just easier to numb this stuff out. What's the easiest way? Let me get a blunt. Let me get a beer. Let me get a line. You know what I'm saying? Let me get a dab. Let me get something that's going to put me in a better situation to where I can.
A dab?
I said dab too.
Are you talking about going to the motherfucker? Or are you talking about
See, y'all trying to cyberbully me. I'm not going to be cyberbullied. I'm just not going to
make sure that our strong friends okay.
I'm just not going to allow y'all to cyberbully me here. But I think that's important, you know. But to a certain degree too, just as men, we have this machismo, this macho man, and we talk about like being leaders and want to be respected, bro. Why do we have such a hard time being the bigger person and like walking away for situations? Like, why do we always feel like we need to prove ourselves? Why can't we just walk away sometimes?
Can't be no punk.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Can't be no punk, bro. What you mean? That's the first thing you learn.
Yeah.
You come home, I got beat up. Your mom was like, "Whoop, you better go out there and fight again."
Go back out there and get
no punk. You gotta go get another one. You can't be no punk.
Got that on the new album where he had situations. You know, his biggest fear was getting stolen in public. You know what I'm saying? Had to fake being tough a whole bunch of times. I mean, there's a lot of people that do gotta fake being tough, but I think that is showing up in a lot of different places, right? Like, I mean, if we go with the theory that we got to work 3 times harder to get whatever it is that we want in life when it comes to like work and things like that, right? That the odds aren't in our favor and we got to work 3 times harder. You gonna be that? I think that shit is a trickle down effect to everything in life. You'd be like, I'd be damned if I let somebody do this or that to me, or take this or that from me, because I've worked too hard to get to where I'm at. Like we was talking about the last episode, like when Franklin went bad, I built this shit brick by brick, and I'd be damned if I let somebody mess it up. Like, that's how we feel about everything that we obtain in life, because we know it's not fair and it's not easy for us to get to. So what are we gonna do? Like, at all costs, you start taking the material things in life and just accolades in life and making them like their life or death, like they're your baby that, you know, was birthed and things like that, and protecting them to that extent. And yeah, it may end up costing you your life, costing you your family and anything like that, but the pride is is the devil, man, and we will stand on that shit for no matter what when it comes to being people that are fighting from a disadvantage.
No, I think it's learned. It takes time to build that though, right? I just know for myself, I was like, everybody know me. I was a hothead from about 15, made about 25. But as I got older, I just learned. It was a learn. 37. That's when I calmed down. Now, so now it's like a learned behavior. It just takes time, bro. Like to be like, you know what? It ain't that big of a deal. Or just say, you know what? My bad. Stepped on my shoe. You spilled a drink on me or whatever. I'll pay for your dry cleaning, etc. That's a learned behavior. I just know as a youngster, I was ready to go for no reason because I had other stuff going on in my life that I didn't deal with. So that's the thing. A lot of people have things in their life that they're not dealing with that makes them a firecracker. When it comes to the smallest thing, when you could have just said, my fault, my bad, I'm sorry. Shouldn't have done it, whatever.
And that's because that was that image. That was that image you was carrying. Like, oh, I can't let somebody cross me and not give them the business. It was the image that we were carrying. So somebody nowadays, if they step on you or they step on your shoes, drop your drink, you know that you can turn around and be like, let me use my words before we have to go to a physical and be like, yo, excuse you, or can you get can you give me another drink, or you'll find a compromise. And again, that you don't carry that same image. Now that we're older, and it's like, man, I don't have time to get caught up. Because now you think the future. You're like, all right, if I get caught up in this situation, what is it going to be like for me tomorrow? What am I going to have to deal with after the fact? So now you're like, you know what? Let me think before I completely react, because I got other things I got going on that's a lot more important. It's image, man. We got to let some images go as we get older.
And you know what? Thank you for shows like Power, because I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of us were, and just this reflection of kind of what I see through my lens, a lot of us were more Tommy than we were Ghost. And then I know watching that show, you appreciate this black dude who's more calculated in his thoughts. At least myself, I'm way more Tommy than I am Ghost. Like, I'd rather just hold court in the street. So I look at that more or less like I look at that show and I watch this black man who was calculated in his thought process. And, I have friends around me too, a lot of different people that move in different ways in which I watch. They're very calculated about how they move. And so I'm never afraid, even in my machismo, to admire my smart, calculated chess playing friends that play chess with life. So I know that's helped to calm me down a lot too, because I watch them like, damn, like that person over there, like, they're a problem. They may have to. There may be a consequence for the type of actions they display. But I've watched my calculated friends be like, "Nope, it's not. I've assessed the risk and reward. It's not worth it." And I'm talking about not just. I'm not talking about on some gangster shit. I'm talking about personally and professionally. I've watched people learn how to calculate things to understand when is the time to execute or not to execute, and I appreciate that because I didn't always know that.
One of the first shows that gave it to us though, Taft, though, was The Wire, right? Oh, Stringer Bell versus Avon Barksdale.
Yeah.
Right. And you've seen the two different variations of a person who was very very kind of impulsive, wanted to be a hothead, not wanting to back down, and then a person who was very calculated and they thought about things before they did it, and how your movement changes when you decide you want to think about things. I think that for so much of us in our community, we can't walk away because, again, if the reputation in the streets is that you're a punk, now you're gonna have people knocking on your door every day to fight you. So you don't want to walk away because I don't want to have to fight tomorrow. So if I fight today, then hopefully I won't have to fight tomorrow and then the day after and the day after. The unfortunate thing in the situation is that we got to do a better job of training and teaching our young men, hey, it's better to walk away to save face for another day. Parents tell their kids, hey, I just need you to come back home. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what you do out there, just make sure you can come back home. And I think that's about your ability to say, hey, I'm not going to argue with this person about the situation. It's simple. My bad will suffice and I can move on. But if I step on your shoe, and I'm such a man that I step on your shoe and I can't say my bad, right? Everything that comes after that, some people will say is foolishness, but everything that comes after that, you may say you deserve because you were unwilling. You allowed your pride is the devil, J. Cole. You allow your pride to get in the way instead of just being able to be a man and say, hey, I made a mistake. We can't admit our mistakes. That's why we have a trouble walking away. And to a certain degree, that's why we struggle sometimes in relationships, because we can't simply say, oh, my bad, I shouldn't have did that. You know what I'm saying? So quit worrying about what somebody else did. Worry about what you did. Apologize for what you did. You know what I'm saying? Because you can only change what you did. Stop always worrying about what everybody else did.
Yeah. And I also traveling too then played a part in that for all of us, right? Like, I think we're good in different areas, different neighborhoods, all types of different places that we go, right? And I think for that is that even though, yeah, we may have this element of hothead to us, we learn quickly, like, we outnumber and out of bounds. So the best thing to do is to pay some homage and show some level of respect when you're outside of your zone. Like, you can't be having this level of like so much machismo and these areas that's not really a majority of you. You came in there and you're the minority. And I'm talking about in all aspects of life. What you gonna do? You gonna be so machismo? You gonna get your ass beat from the front to the back door today because you don't know how to be humble and respect people's areas, their culture, whatever it is that they displaying. Like, and that, you know, we've seen different things like that. Where the space do get tight and stepped on the street. My bad, bro. And these dudes got $1,500 Mason Margielas on and things like that. So it's one of those things where it's like you do have to learn how to be humble in situations, especially when you're traveling and things like that. You go out of the country, you might get your ass caned or a hand chopped off. Like, you gotta learn how to be unprideful in situations.
You gotta learn how to humble yourself, man. You gotta learn how to humble yourself. P, you were shaking your head tough. You got something to say about this. Go ahead.
What you guys were sharing, I was like, it's like spot on. Being macho man, it's gonna catch up with you. Let me just say it that way, because you not in every situation you're gonna be the man, and it's gonna be something that's gonna humble you that you didn't see coming. Whether it be, dang, I'm in another country. I'm gonna tell you my personal story. When I went to Africa, the way I got into a quick car accident, not gonna lie, got into a car accident in Africa. When you pull over, the machismo side of me was like, all right, I know it's kind of my fault, but it's also his fault. Let me really get at him and be like, yo, you did this. As soon as we got out the car, though, it seems like the community came out. And so now I'm outnumbered like 10, 20 dudes and just me. And the guy was arguing like, it's your fault. I had to bow down. And I was like, wait, this is the first time in my life I was like, where the police at? They got police out here? and you know, you're in another country. So what I'm trying to say, though, is at the end of the day, you can't, that macho man is going to come back and slap you in some manner, whether it be in your relationship and you lose a good situation, or whether you done argue something and now you lost some trust. And you was just trying to be like, well, I got to hold strong here. And now that you did that, you done messed up everything else going forward. So, and that relates to everything, how you engage with society, how you engage with people of opposite observations or ideas. Yeah, that macho man is going to run out. It is not going to last. You're going to always run up against somebody who's bigger than you. You're going to run up to somebody who's probably a little stronger than you. And that macho man mentality is not going to work.
It's a survival mechanism. It's not a thriving mechanism, right? It helps you survive, right? Let's be honest. Those tools help you survive in those environments which you may need them. But what happens when you are out of that environment? Now you can't thrive because you're stuck trying to survive when really you need to be moving forward in order to thrive. And that's the problem. That's why some people leave an environment and they still struggle, because they're still in that survival mindset when really they need to be focusing on thriving. And I think, again, we have to be able to shift gears now. And that's why other people can leave that environment and do better, because they've always wanted more. Their environment was just holding them back. This representation of who they felt like they needed to be was holding them back. And I think one of the biggest blessings I've always talked about people, when I talk about my friends, when I talk about y'all to people, is we can talk about anything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like people, well, you don't tell your friends that. I tell my friends everything.
Everything.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you really? No, yes, everything. Why? Because if those are the people that I believe care for me, those are the people that I believe have my back. In order for them to give me adequate information, adequate feedback, you can't see the back of your neck. So I have to rely on them to tell me, hey, Dewan, you need to fix this, you need to do that. People always think like, oh, well, you know everything about yourself. No, you have blind spots. You literally cannot see the back of your neck and the back of your head. So you have to rely on other people to give you that information. So I need to make sure that I'm open and honest with my friends about my perspective in the situation, so then they can give me adequate feedback. So then I'm no longer blind in that space that I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, we talk about.
You said something big right there. I think a lot of the Macho Man stuff comes from a group think. Like if you're surrounded by people who has that mentality, then you're gonna try to uphold that mentality. And like you just said, though, if you got a group of friends, it's like, I think who had said that if you look at who somebody's friends are, you'll be able to tell where they're gonna be at the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
That macho man idea. Yeah, you be around them dudes right now. Next 5 years, we'll see how all macho you all gonna be. If you don't got a group of friends really that's like, you know what, check that attitude a little bit. It's gonna make a big difference. Go ahead, Taff. You was about to say something.
No, I mean you got it. I lost my train of thought on it, but I think you covered pretty much what I was going to say for most of it, anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, your group and dynamic I think makes a big difference in your macho man aspects, because I think right here in a group of friends I have, if we were somewhere and somebody's, I don't know, spills a drink, there's gonna be a cool head that's gonna be like, really, you gonna take us all down that avenue because of what that person just did to your drink?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't slap you. They didn't run up on you. They just bumped you on your drink. And now we all gonna go down this avenue. Now imagine if you had a group of friends like, nah, we gotta be macho all the time. Now you go down that avenue and everybody's stuck. So yeah,
everybody's stuck, and I'm gonna be mad. I'm 37 years old. I done got punched by a 26, 27-year-old because Taff want to argue with this fool because he spilled his drink. Now we all in the club fighting because we all want to be macho man. Now I gotta go back home and tell my wife why I got a black eye. And when I go to see my clients in therapy and I'm trying to get them smart life advice, they're gonna be looking at me like, what happened to your eye? So I think you have to be mindful of that. That's the reality, right? Are you considering who's with you when you do these things? Are you considering these situations when you're doing these things? Not to say Taff will put us in that situation. Just had to use it as a relevant example.
I normally don't decide to do it first because I have to let you guys assess that. I let y'all group thinking, man, I decide. But no, I mean, yeah. I mean, we are lucky to have a circle where we can have a group think, right? Because we're not going to be out here all telling each other, you know, I don't come to y'all to be right. I definitely don't come to my friend circle to be right because I know there's enough wrong in me and what I do that if I'm coming to y'all, I need to come to y'all to get verified on the best solution for the problem because I know how I react to certain things. So for me, I do not come to my friend circle to be right. I definitely come to them for that. But I was also thinking too, where it's like maybe it's too some of the things we've seen in culture, right? When we've learned about it to be tough, you know, some of the examples that we've heard and we've had played on in front of us, whether it be through culture, systemic, whatever you want to call it, is that, and this is I'm gonna use the analogy, but just bear with me, is the dope dealers, right? We've learned in the community we're at where it's like dope dealers have been taught, like, if you got people stealing your stash, then you can't be out here selling dope because you can't be a successful dope dealer if everybody thinks they can steal your stash, right? And that I feel is trickled down into some of the things we've seen in society and even spilled over in other places where it's like, that's the only way you're taught to be tough is that you got to respond to people trying to punk you because if you let one person slide, everybody's going to treat you like that, right? Like, it's not necessarily about dope anymore. It's just more the fact that I only know, even though that's not my route and I don't do those type of things, all I know is that if I let one person punk me, everybody gonna think you can punk me. I don't know how to decipher now what to let go and what to take on because I gotta go at everybody like that, right? But luckily enough for us, we've evolved into a place where, I mean, we passed that, you know, that the dope dealing is not something that's a factor in our situations on how we figure out how to do that. That's not what we about. That's not what we do. And we learn how to be able to take on situations and decide and pick and choose which battles we should engage in and not engage in. I always say, you know, just being a black man and a black officer, when things come up and we're having conversations about race or somebody does some shit that's out of pocket in any police environment I've worked in, I don't check individuals because to me, that lets people start being able to formulate the angry black man assumption. I wait till we have an audience, and that way I shotgun my whole approach. Whoever fucked up today, everybody is going to get it so that everybody knows exactly where I'm at. You're not going to be able to play on multiple accounts he always going off like that. Remember when he did that this week? Remember when he did that week? My calculated his approach is that nope. Let me get an audience in front of me so I can say my shit once, and we ain't got to move. We ain't got to have this conversation over and over. Everybody know how I feel about what point or stance I'm taking.
So, you know, as we're having this conversation though, and I'm thinking like of our younger selves, we wish we would have told this too at some point. It's kind of like, yeah, and Jeff, I think you probably think I'm going, could you have told your younger self, like, yo, that's not going to work? Like, would we have really listened to ourselves if we would have been like, hey, stop, it's not even smart? And the reason why I bring that up is because as we're talking about it, I'm like, man, are we just speaking to the choir? Because of course we all learned this. Like, is what we're saying really going to be accepted or understood by those that are, you know, are younger and need to stop being so macho?
But who was gonna check you though?
Yeah.
Like, all right. So when we got into the fight, we all fought, and it was like, oh, we was stomping. I seen you hitting with the boo boo boo. It was celebrated, right? It wasn't like, bro, what are you thinking? What were you doing? Like, now we all got to go home and explain this, like the one said. But nobody was gonna check us on that. Nobody went through and had the ability to be like, decide like, hey, nah, this don't look too good. And over there, that don't look like that's gonna turn out right for us. We had nobody. We was all going home. We seen red. We all seen red. Like, well, let's go do it. Let's do it. Yeah. If that's what we're doing, let's do it. So it's one of them things of, do we have somebody that can balance that out for us? And a lot of us don't. And that's something, like we said, we have to learn it, because, I mean, not to say that we were, how do we say it? Not we gonna argue with each other, but when it comes down to it, we gonna ride. But at that point, as a young person, we didn't have the ability to be like, man, parents is tripping again. Hey, bro, we're not going on that road. We didn't have nobody to check us. We just was gonna do it because we all seen red. Well, she saw red, I saw red, you saw red, and it was like, let's go get it.
And I'm thinking of the fraternity aspect, right? Like us being fraternity dudes, the fraternity been around 100+ years, right? So we've got dudes older and older and older than us that told us, hey, y'all shouldn't be doing that. Hey, y'all need to watch how y'all moving. Hey, I don't think this is a good idea. We was outside, man. We doing this for the set. We would do whatever we want to do all day, right? So we couldn't have told our younger self not to do it, because I know for a fact that we had great mentors in front of us, dudes that went on to be great fathers, great businessmen, great at achieving in every field of human endeavor that they basically were involved in. And even with those type of role models and in front of us and mentors in front of us, I still ran the ISO when I wanted to. I ain't running the triangle. Fuck, how many times you call that play? We running ISO. Clear it out. I'm doing what I want to do. So, who was going to check us? Nobody, because we didn't listen. You had a whole group of Bobby Browns.
Yeah, it's crazy. And no, Anthony McCrae, we should have not been
not at all.
Never. Not happening.
That wouldn't have worked.
We got a different mindset. But I think what people don't really understand, and Tav said it, we all seen red. Or no, Jeff said we all seen red, and that's really what ends up happening. Is we heard it, people gave us that information, but men are a little different in a certain degree. Men got to bump their head, right? Sometimes they got to bump their head in order to really figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Because you figure out you bumped your head and now it hurts, so you don't want to bump your head no more. And in some cats, they bump their head and they like, shit, I can take it, and they keep bumping their head. But let's not get this confused. Most men have some type of struggles, right? Most men do something that is not necessarily conducive to a healthy adaptive behavior. And I think when we were younger, ours was probably our temper, fighting, hot heads, things of that nature. But I think, and to a certain degree, we've learned that we don't need to operate that way anymore. We like as we got older, we got an image of ourselves that we're comfortable with who we are. I don't need to prove myself to you no more, right? To me, my goal every day is to make it home to my wife and my son. So I'm going to say sorry. I'm going to say my bad. I'm going to say I'll buy that for you. I'm going to say whatever I need to say, because I don't need to prove nothing to you. You're a stranger. I don't care, right? I need to make sure, though, that I am there for my son, because I'm out here trying to prove something to my stranger. This dude pull out a pistol and shoot me in my face. Now my son is raised for the rest of his life without a daddy, because instead of me trying to prove to myself, to him, that I could be a good father, I'm trying to prove myself to a stranger. And I think that's the problem. Again, we got to make sure that we got that balance, man. So as always, these type of conversations are what we need in our community, man. Just that,
Right.
in our 20-year-old, 21-year-old selves, we hear it, but sometimes we need to bump our heads a little bit, and hopefully we don't bump our heads too hard. It's just the way we got to operate, man. We live in a society that have a lot of systematic policies, rules, regulations that may not really be conducive to us bumping our heads too many times before they put us in a box. So we just got to be smart with that. So
Yeah,
you
because
know,
that one bump can lead down a whole other avenue.
it can lead to some problems, man. But as always, man, great discussion, brothers. If y'all have any parting ways for the people, let them know what it is.
I'm gonna give you two that I always say though. You only live this life once, so take advantage of it. And the second one that I'm gonna say is, it's better to live in your lane than to try to live in everybody else's. You'll benefit a lot more living in your own lane. So that machismo, that macho man, at the end of the day, it's not going to benefit if nobody's going to see you flourish.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that macho man thing, like we talked about, can take you some places you want to go. But it all comes back to what I always say, man. Just try to be a good person. And if you got to say, I'm sorry, my bad, oops, I messed up, whatever it is, then you do it. And you assess the situation. And sometimes you might have to go see some red, but that's the part of bumping your head. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, man, just try to be a good person, be the best version of yourself. And that's all you can do. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say when it comes to the macho man behavior, it's a time and a place for everything. We're not saying that it doesn't have any time and place, because there is a time and a place for it, but make it like a tool belt. Like, these are all things that should be on your tool belt. You know when to pull it out and when to put it back up, and when you need it, when you need it, and when you don't need it. And I mean, all of these life lessons that you go through on this road to being a man and things like that, you ain't never gonna drive the same course as anybody else, right? Like, you're gonna learn all these lessons in order for you to navigate your own ship and drive your own boat the way you want to drive it. So understand that, yeah, there's gonna be times the water gets so turbulent that you need your macho man button turned on so that you can ride through them waves. But you also need to know when the water is running smooth and cool, man. Like, we don't need to be doing all of this. We don't need to be riding the boat like this for no reason. All we doing is putting wear and tear on the boat and putting all the other passengers at risk of getting stuck at sea. So if you look at it like that, you'll understand that it's a time and a place for everything, and know when you need to turn them buttons on and turn them off. And make sure you got multiple buttons and multiple features to use on your boat while you navigating them seas.
Look at that. Look at that.
Look at it.
Look at it. Hey, I got a little knowledge.
You've been reading some books?
We got to use
reading.
We got to yeah, make that shit tight so then we put it on Instagram next week.
You've been reading some books.
I didn't even read no book though, not for school, not for that, but I just be
coming up with some good analogies.
Sometimes shit just be flowing. You know when you're in the zone, it's green light. It's all nothing.
Pass that man the ball.
Sometimes.
Oh, it's on me.
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, I think, obviously, I think having an idea of who we want to be is important, and make sure the person that we want to be is based on what we feel is in the best interest of our growth, and not necessarily what's conducive to this environment. Because when you leave that environment, that version of yourself is not necessarily adaptable anymore. We talk about culture and how one thing is accepted in one culture and another thing may not be accepted in another culture. But if you're consistently who you are, then it doesn't matter what's accepted and what's not accepted, because you're yourself. And I think for what we talked about today, whether it was male and men machismo or sexuality and things of that nature, is really about being able to be yourself and being comfortable in that. I think as people, particularly as men, we got to learn to support each other more. I know we're gonna have our male banter and we're gonna make jokes and we're gonna laugh and we're gonna, probably say some stuff to each other that we wouldn't say on camera. But I think we still have to make sure that we're being able to support each other and have those genuine, authentic connections and relationships with people. Check on your friends, pull up on them, call them, text them, whatever, things of that nature, man, because you never know what somebody's dealing with, and you never know who they are acting as they are when really they may be, hurting inside. So, love yourself. Love the people you with, man, and we can continue to grow from there. So, we appreciate all the love, all the support. Like us, follow us on Instagram at Braspective, Facebook at Braspective, YouTube. Please share your videos with your friends. They may only like 10% of what we say, but the goal is as much knowledge as you can get. Knowledge is power. So people don't know what they don't know, and we're trying to make sure they can at least learn some things by their own perspective. We catch y'all again in 2 weeks. Right? Hug somebody, love somebody, give them a hug, a kiss, and we'll catch you guys a little later. Take it easy.